Hello everybody, it's AJ back again, nice to see ya. So I realised that I made a promise to talk about Fomorians and complete the Giant series long ago, and I'm getting around to it today. So the Fomorians were once upon a time the most gorgeous and refined of the giant kind. They were massive in stature, titans in nature, masters of magic and nature, and they were perfected, and they sought to rule over giant society, which they did, and they also sought to rule over the natural world, which they did, and they sought to extend their realm into the touching realities of the Feywild and the Shadowfell and the elemental planes, and they sought to expand their realm of control into magic. They were greedy and grasping and controlling, and uh, they sought to control all other species which they considered to be inferior. And in trying to take over the Feywild, they bit off a bit more than they could chew, and all of the other Fey creatures, the masters of the Feywild, came together and rose up against the Fomorians and their control. And although the Fomorians were powerful and respected and uh, massive beings, the Fey brought them low with a terrible curse which extended to the genetic level, which uh, created a link between the misshapen and evil, twisted desires of the Fomorians and their physical form, and the result of which was a horrific mutation of all the Fomorians henceforth, all offspring of the Fomorians, which resulted in the Fomorians that we're familiar with today. These hideous, misshapen, twisted beings with their distended yellow and snake serpentine eyes, uh, and that twisted nature of their souls. So the Fomorians fled the Underdark after ruling it for so long, after this horrific curse, and really cruel and evil curse, afflicted their entire species, and they fled from the Feywild and into the Underdark, being no longer able to tolerate um, the well, not so much the touch of daylight, but the examination of good creatures, which they once considered themselves to be the most bold and beautiful and huge. And the Fomorians dwell in eerily beautiful caverns in the Underdark, kind of a reflection of the Feywild. So they have layers that are abundant with access to fresh water, fish, mushroom forests. So they have myconid slave races around them. They have crystal caverns. They have castles which are an eerie sort of Tim Burton reflection um, of the beautiful and light-filled castles of the Fey lords. But they're dark and twisted reflections of that. So they're evil, cartoonish layers where wickedness and depravity are the cornerstones of their society. So they engage in cannibalism, torture, uh, rampant hedonism, and that sort of thing. So the cornerstone of the Fomorians is ruined flesh and evil minds. They are as twisted physically as they are mentally. So their heads are often depicted with one large distended eye, and their physical features are warped and twisted. So they have one arm large, they have ingrown, twisted feet and hands that are like talons. Their teeth are jagged and misshapen. Their physical features on their heads may be placed randomly, so their mouth may be where a normal cheek would be or an ear, and their eyes may be dispersed on either side of their head, and like just generally hideous. And the Fomorians know that they're hideous. They know that they're ugly, and that they are suffering from a curse, and that their physical imperfections are deserved. But that doesn't in any way quell the hatred that they have in heart for any fey creatures, any beautiful creatures, anything that they once sought to control and rule over. And they still have this massive amount of knowledge of magical power and things like that, but their society has been devastated, brought low by this horrible curse that the Fae visited upon them that they cannot get rid of because it is tied into the life force of the Feywild itself. See, the Fae is the material world which has been invested with more life energy, so it's more vital and vibrant. And when the Fae used this magic against the Fomorians, it was the very life force of the Fomorian species that they twisted and destroyed. So there's nothing that the Fomorians can really do about it, rather than, I don't know, recreate themselves from the cellular level up, and they will no longer be themselves. So they are the last and twisted legacy of a species which brought itself low by their misunderstanding and underestimation of the power of the Fae. Anyway, so the Fomorians are huge and chaotic evil giants. They are true giant kin, although no longer considered part of the Ordning per se. They have an armor class of 14. They've got an average of 149 hit points and a speed of 30 feet. So they're pretty big. Their exact size is not stable. Fomorians maybe hunched and squat, or quite tall and willowy. So they can be up to 20 feet tall, or as low as 16 or 14 feet tall, depending on what sort of physical mutations they have. Generally speaking, though, they're going to be at least twice or 3 times the size of an ordinary human being. Their skills are perception of +8 and a stealth of +3. They are used to walking around in the Underdark and are masters of lurking around in their domain. And their misshapen features, although bizarre, are very precise and very keen. So their perception of +8 reflects their keen senses and their awareness of their environment, and also magical senses. They have dark vision out to 120 feet, which is true dark vision, and a passive perception of 18. They're extremely hard to sneak up on. They speak giant and undercommon, and they're listed as a challenge rating 8 as a combatant on their own. However, Fomorians will always be surrounded by cyclopes and darklings and other twisted and fell creatures which they have turned to their service, either through kindred spirits of evil or because they are holding sway against their communities, so that the warriors must work for the Fomorians or suffer the wrath where their entire communities will be tortured and destroyed. So they have a multi-attack, which is it attacks twice with a great club, or makes one great club attack and uses its evil eye once. Fomorians, however, are fond of the wealth and power that they once had, so they will seek out magical items. And Fomorians that are of note in your adventure will quite often have very powerful magical items of giant size, which have been crafted specifically for them through coercion, or that they have stolen from other giant species. Other giants don't really tolerate the Fomorians very much, although they do recognize them as part of giant society. They realize that, well, the curse that's befallen them was quite terrible and fairly well deserved, and perhaps the other giants could have stepped in to prevent it, but they didn't. So they use a great club mainly as a weapon. It's +9 to hit, a reach of 15 feet, of course, because they're huge, and they do 19 points of bludgeoning damage on a hit. Their evil eye attack is quite interesting, in that the curse that they are infested with takes the form of twisted magical energy, which they can force out through this evil eye that they have, and creatures within 60 feet of the Fomorian must make a DC 14 charisma saving throw, or the creature takes 27 psychic damage on a failed save. Now, I like to imagine that that's basically a sapping of the will to live. So the Fomorian causes such despair and anguish within an individual that they will actually cease to want to live. And the damage could either be self-inflicted or just basically it's the heart stopping. I don't know. I'll leave it up to you. On a well, once a day, and this recharges after a short or a long rest for the Fomorian. The creature which fails its saving throw against the evil eye suffers from the same sort of magical deformities that the Fomorian does. So the body actually twists and distends according to the evil desires of the creature. They have their speed's halved. They have disadvantage on all ability checks and saving throws, and attacks are based on strength or dexterity are also halved. And the transform creature is basically twisted. And this could be a player character that's been twisted horribly by the Fomorians. So not only are they suffering from this devastating psychological effect of the evil eye, but it's also warped and twisted their physical form, in what must seem like a permanent disfigurement to the character. And it's, I don't know, if you're like me and you really love role playing, this is a devastating turn of events for a character. I mean, can you just imagine how it would be to be subjected to that sort of torment? Anyway, so the Curse of the Evil, the creature that's affected by it can repeat the saving throw whenever it finishes a long rest, ending the effect on a success. And I would also say that some sort of a cure curse spell effect would also end this as well. But yeah, it'd be quite devastating, and also the stigma of it as well, of being affected by this warping and twisting and uglification, as you will, would have wide-ranging effects for the social interactions of this character as well. So it's a devastating attack that Fomorians can level against you, and you know, it's however in depth you want to take it. So yeah, Fomorians, they basically spend their time plotting against the Feywild. That's their main focus, and lording over their terrain. They are ultimate tyrants, and they're dark and twisted and ugly. And that ugliness and twisted tyranny of the Fomorians turns against everyone, even themselves. So their society is fractured and twisted, and they will see their evil reflected in everything around them. Even innocent creatures will be seen as evil and twisted by the Fomorians, and they will, yeah, their rage and wrath falls upon everyone, friend and foe alike. So yeah, Fomorians are absolutely chaotic evil. They are a perfect example of that character class, and that alignment, and they make really good bad guys for the Underdark, and one that I'm quite fond of.